The winter winds of Earth howled through the observation deck of the intergalactic embassy, snowflakes pressing against transparent aluminum walls like desperate fingers. Inside, beneath crystalline chandeliers that scattered light into prismatic shards, Lyra stood alone in her wedding dress. White lace cascading over blue skin that marked her as an Illyrian. Her pointed ears trembled as laughter echoed from the throne room beyond, where Kingston had just announced his rejection. The words still hung in the air, sharp as icicles. Too abundant for a king's bride, too soft for a warrior's lineage. But in the shadow of a rusted starship component, a human mechanic with oil-stained hands paused his work, his eyes fixed not on her shame, but on something the entire galaxy had failed to see. The Naltherian embassy stood as a monument to contradiction, built on Earth soil, yet designed to mimic the underwater palaces of Nalthra Prime. Holographic water cascaded down walls in illusory torrents, and the air carried the scent of salt and preservatives that allowed Naltherians to breathe comfortably without their aquatic suits. Lyra's fingers traced the lacework of her gown, each thread woven by her mother's hands. Or so she believed. The dress honored both worlds. Earthly tradition in its cut, Naltherian heritage in its bioluminescent threading that pulsed with her heartbeat. But now those pulses were erratic, broadcasting her humiliation like a distress signal. Through the archway, she could see the assembled court. Kings then occupied the central dais, his body wrapped in adaptive armor that shifted with his moods. "I will not bind my lineage to weakness," he had declared. "Look at her, soft where she should be sharp. The royal line requires perfection, not abundance." The court had laughed. Not all of them, but enough. The sound had sliced deeper than any blade. She turned away before tears could fall, moving through the corridor to the maintenance sector, where beautiful illusion gave way to raw machinery. Pipes hissed with steam, consoles flickered with diagnostic readouts, and the air smelled of ozone and metal. She didn't expect to find anyone there, but there he was, a human man, perhaps 30, kneeling beside an engine component. His dark hair was tied back carelessly, clothes practical and stained with grease. He was welding something, the torch casting dancing shadows across his focused face. He looked up as she entered. "You shouldn't be down here," he said, voice carrying no judgment, only concern. "Pretty dress like that near all this machinery. It'll get ruined." "I needed to be somewhere real," Lyra whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of equipment. The mechanic nodded, as if he understood completely. He lowered his torch and stood, wiping his hands on a rag. "Garrett," he said, "Maintenance Division." "Lyra," she replied, though she knew he already knew. "Everyone knows." Something flickered in his gray eyes, compassion, perhaps, or recognition. "I heard what the king said, and I thought, here's a room full of people who've never built anything with their hands. They don't know what makes someone valuable." He paused, meeting her gaze steadily. But while the hall laughed, the outsider's eyes shimmered faintly, as if holding a truth older than the stars. Before Lyra could respond to Garrett's unexpected kindness, an alarm shrieked through the maintenance sector, piercing the air like a scream. Red emergency lights flooded the corridor, bathing everything in blood-like hue. "That's the reactor core," Garrett said, already moving with urgent precision. "Atmospheric stabilizers. If they fail, everyone upstairs has 12 minutes before they suffocate." The alarm's pitch changed, becoming more urgent, a wailing crescendo. Voices filtered down from upper levels, panic, commands shouted in Naltherian and English alike. Garrett pulled up a holographic schematic on a nearby console. Red indicators bloomed like wounds across the display. Primary converters offline. Secondary offline. Tertiary backups not responding, he said steadily, his voice a calm anchor in the chaos. Someone locked out the automated repair protocols. Lyra moved closer, her wedding dress whispering against the grimy floor. "Can you override it?" "Trying, but whoever did this knew what they were doing." He glanced at her, assessing. "You understand atmospheric systems?" "I studied xenotechnology at the Nalthran Academy before my father decided I should focus on diplomacy." She hesitated, then added, "Can you read Naltherian engineering protocols?" "Better than romantic poetry," he quipped, a ghost of a smile crossing his face despite the tension. Pull up Terminal 3. Track the cascade failures backward. They worked in tandem, a seamless rhythm born of necessity. Lyra's fingers danced across interfaces she hadn't touched in years, muscle memory guiding her through forgotten protocols. Found it, she said. Someone injected a virus through waste recycling, but it connects to everything else like a web. Garrett pulled up countermeasures on his side. I can purge the virus, but it'll take 4 minutes. We don't have 4 minutes. The communication system crackled to life. Maintenance division. This is Ambassador Kelvin. We have a critical emergency. Lyra's father, his voice tight with fear. She reached the panel, but Garrett caught her hand gently. If you tell them we're working on it, they'll just interrupt with questions. That's my father up there, the king, the entire diplomatic corps. I know, and we're their only chance. He released her hand. Trust me, no one up there believed they would even try. But the silence that followed spread across the chamber like a storm, heavy and expectant. Garrett pulled out an atmospheric bypass regulator from a nearby toolkit. We can't fix the system in time, he said, but I can create a temporary bubble of processed atmosphere from reserve tanks to the upper floors. It'll buy us 30 minutes. And then what? Then we'll have fixed the problem. His hands were steady as he connected conduits. Lyra, I need you upstairs. Get everyone into the throne room and seal the doors. That's the most airtight space. But you'll need help. I need you to keep them alive long enough for me to save them. Lyra understood. Upstairs meant facing the court again. The laughter, the judgment. They won't respect orders from me. Then make them respect you, because you're the one who knows what needs to be done. Garrett activated the bypass with a decisive flick. You've got 90 seconds before people start passing out. Lyra gathered the skirts of her wedding dress and ran, the fabric tearing slightly on a protruding pipe, but she didn't care. She burst into the main hall, to chaos. Nobles clustered in groups, some supporting others who'd already grown weak from the thinning air. Faces paled, breaths came in gasps. Lyra, her father rushed toward her, his own complexion ashen. We need to evacuate. Everyone needs to get into the throne room immediately, she commanded, her voice cutting to the din. It's the only space that could be sealed and pressurized. The maintenance division should be handling this, a noble protested. They are. I am. She raised her voice, projecting authority she hadn't known she possessed. Everyone moved to the throne room now. Some started moving. Others hesitated, looking to King Stan for guidance. You dare give commands in my presence? The king thundered, his adaptive armor rippling with indignation. I dare try to save your life, your majesty. She met his gaze without flinching, her bioluminescence flaring. You can punish me after you survive. Now move. For a heartbeat, she thought he would refuse. Then one of his advisors collapsed, clutching his throat. To the throne room, Stan commanded quickly, his voice brooking no argument. They moved as a mass, Lyra directing traffic, like conductor in a storm. She found herself supporting an elderly Nalarian scholar, his weight leaning heavily on her shoulder. They reached the throne room. Lyra activated emergency protocols, and the heavy doors sealed with resounding thud. Immediately, the air quality improved, recycled, breathable. Lyra moved to the environmental controls, checking readings with practiced efficiency. What's happening? Her father joined her, his eyes wide with a mix of fear and pride. The human mechanic, Garrett. He's fixing the system, but he needed time. A human, a noble muttered disdainfully. We're trusting our lives to a human. You're trusting your lives to the only person here who knows how to fix what's broken. Species is irrelevant. Listen to the discarded bride. Another voice sneered from the crowd. Lyra spun, her hands clenching into fists. You want to debate my qualifications? I studied atmospheric engineering for 4 years before my father asked me to abandon it. I can recite the molecular composition of 17 different breathable atmospheres. I know exactly how long we have, 22 minutes. So yes, I am an expert. Silence followed, thick and stunned. Then Kingston laughed quietly, a sound without malice. For years of atmospheric engineering, he said. Your father never mentioned it. Beauty and diplomacy don't fix air processors, Your Majesty. No, they don't. He looked at her with something like regret, his armored form seeming smaller. What else did anyone tell me about you? Before Lyra could answer, the lights flickered ominously. Then an explosion echoed through the sealed doors, coming from the maintenance sector, a muffled boom that vibrated the floor. Lyra was at the communication panel. In an instant, Garrett responded. Static, then a cough, ragged and pained. Still here, mostly intact. What happened? Someone doesn't want us fixing this. They rigged the purge system to blow. More coughing. I need to manually inspect every system. That takes time we don't have. Lyra checked her readings. 20 minutes remaining. What if you had help? You can't come down here if you open those doors. The ventilation system has maintenance crawlways. Absolutely not. They're not pressurized. Then I'll be quick. Lyra was moving toward the utility panel, determination stealing her spine. Lyra, no. Her father grabbed her arm, his grip desperate. You can't risk yourself. He can't do it alone. Not fast enough. She met her father's eyes, seeing the conflict there. Dad, I studied for this. Let me use what I know. Kings then spoke from his throne, his voice grave. If she fails, we all die anyway. Let her try. Lyra didn't wait for further debate. The utility panel opened to reveal a narrow shaft, ladders descending into darkness. Climb down 3 levels. Garrett's voice came through her earpiece, which she'd synced on the way. Junction marked with yellow striping, left branch. Got it. The crawlway will get tight if your dress gets caught. The dress is coming off. Lyra was already unfastening closures, letting the gown pool at her feet like she had skin. Beneath, she wore a simple bodysuit, practical, form-fitting. Behind her, a murmur from the court at the impropriety. Let them whisper, she muttered. Practical, Garrett said with approval over the calm smart. Lyra entered the crawlway. The temperature dropped immediately, metal cold against her skin. She climbed down, counting levels methodically. 1, 2, 3. There, yellow striping, left branch. The crawlway narrowed, forcing her to turn sideways. Her blue skin stood out starkly in the dim emergency lighting, bioluminescence pulsing like a heartbeat. For once, she was grateful for the same soft curves that had been mocked. They allowed her to squeeze through spaces a more angular person couldn't navigate. The crawlway opened into a larger corridor. Lyra dropped down gracefully, landing in a crouch. Smoke drifted through the air, acrid and thick. Garrett here. She found him kneeling beside the main atmospheric processor, his arm bleeding profusely, a makeshift bandage tied around a deep gash. Shrapnel glinted nearby. You made it. You're hurt. I'm functional. He gestured to a console with his good arm. I need you to access the diagnostic interface. It's a Naltherian script. Lyra moved to the console, her fingers flying. Primary converters are gone. Secondary at 30%. Tertiary backups are locked but undamaged, deliberately blocked. Can you unlock them? Not from here. The override is physical. There's an access panel inside the reactor housing, which is currently running hot. How hot? Lyra checked the gauges. 200 degrees Celsius. That's not survivable for most. Wait. She paused, recalling her studies. Naltherian physiology handles heat differently. Our home world has thermal vents. 200 would hurt, but I could survive it for a few minutes. Garrett stared at her, his gray eyes wide. You want to go inside an overheating reactor. I want everyone upstairs to keep breathing. For a long moment, Garrett said nothing, conflict warring on his face. Then he pulled open a storage locker and retrieved thermal gear, gloves, a mask, a suit. Put this on and take this. He handed her a plasma cutter. You'll need it. Talk me through it. The access panel is on the eastern interior wall, marked with a blue chevron, cut through the security plate. Behind it, 3 manual levers, red, yellow, green. In that order. Disengage the red lockout. Toggle the yellow bypass. Engage the green primary. Red disengage. Yellow toggle. Green, engage. She repeated it like a mantra. The levers will be hot enough to burn through thermal gloves. He caught her hand, his touch grounding. You have 5 minutes. After that, heat damage becomes irreversible. You get out. I'll finish and I'll get out. The reactor access hatch was sealed with glowing warnings in multiple languages. Lyra overrode the safety locks and pulled it open. Heat rolled out like a physical blow, a wave of inferno that made her eyes water instantly. 5 minutes. Garrett called. I'm timing you. Lyra stepped into the reactor chamber. The world became fire and light, a hellish glow. The processor's core blazed at the chamber's center, a miniature sun. The air itself shimmered with distortion, waves of heat rippling. She found the eastern wall through the haze, her vision blurring. There, the blue chevron. The plasma cutter ignited with a hiss. She pressed at the security plate and began cutting, sparks flying like angry fireflies. 30 seconds gone. The plate fell away with a clang. Behind it, the 3 levers, red, yellow, green, glowing with transferred heat. Lyra grasped the red lever. Even through gloves, the heat was agonizing, searing into her palms. She pulled. The lever didn't move. She braced her feet against the wall, using her whole body's leverage. Curves and all, the lever resisted, then gave with a metallic scream. Her hands burned now, skin blistering beneath the fabric. 2 minutes elapsed. Yellow lever. Toggle. She gripped it and shoved sideways. The lever moved grudgingly until it clicked into place. 3 minutes. The green lever was larger, requiring both hands. Lyra wrapped both around it and pulled with everything she had, muscles straining, lungs burning from the superheated air. Nothing. For minutes, the heat was reaching critical levels. Her vision started to tunnel, edges going black. She thought of the court above, her father, even King Than. She thought of Garrett trusting her. She thought of every time someone had told her she wasn't strong enough, not sharp enough, not perfect. Lyra screamed. Rage and pain and determination fused into one primal sound and pulled. The lever gave, moved, engaged with sound like thunder reverberating through the chamber. Throughout the chamber, systems came alive. Fans whirred. Lights shifted from warning red to stable blue. The core's glow stabilized. 5 minutes. Lyra turned toward the access hatch, her legs weak as water, hands charred and throbbing. But she moved, stumbling, crawling if she had to. She reached the hatch, fell through into cooler air. Garrett caught her, pulling her away from the heat, his arms strong around her collapsing form. You did it. The court's breathing. Everyone's breathing. Before Lyra could even process relief, the communication system crackled again. But it wasn't her father's voice or the king's. It was someone else, female, cultured, carrying the Naltherian inner court accent. I'm sorry, Lyra, but you were never supposed to survive this. The voice broadcast throughout the maintenance sector, and, unbeknownst to the speaker, to the throne room above via open channels. Who is this? Garrett demanded, helping Lyra to her feet. Ambassador Kelvin's daughter would know my voice, though perhaps she's forgotten her own family. Lyra's blood turned to ice in her veins. Silvara, she whispered. Her half-sister, born 8 years before Lyra, raised entirely on Nalther Prime. Very good, Silvara said, her tone calm as a still pond. The communication system was broadcasting to the entire embassy now, her words echoing in every corridor. Silvara, what are you saying? Ambassador Kelvin's voice cut in, horrified. No mistake, father. Just a plan that went awry. Silvara's tone remained eerily composed. Lyra was supposed to die in the reactor. The court was supposed to suffocate. A tragic accident. And I would have been next in line, with no embarrassing younger sister to complicate succession. You tried to murder an entire diplomatic corps. Garrett's voice was flat, laced with steel. Not just that, a destiny. Now emotion entered Silvara's voice, bitter and sharp. Do you know what it's like being the eldest daughter, trained from birth for greatness? And then father brings back his earthborn mistake, his half-breed child from a liaison with a human woman. Oh, yes, Everyone knows your mother was human, Lyra, even if father pretends your blue skin makes you fully Naltherian. In the reactor chamber aftermath, Lyra swayed on her feet, the world tilting. My mother was human? You know? Silvara laughed, a cold, tinkling sound. Oh, father, you never told her. Yes, Lyra, your mother was a human xenobiologist. Forbidden love across species. She died giving birth to you. Human biology wasn't compatible. Father had you genetically modified in utero to look Naltherian, to pass. Blue skin, pointed ears, bioluminescence. All artificial. You're a construct, sister. A beautiful lie. Garrett's hand tightened on Lyra's shoulder, grounding her as everything fragmented. Her identity, her understanding of herself, all shattered like glass. Even if that's true, Garrett said, his voice steady, it doesn't justify attempted murder. I spent 3 years planning this. A pause, then triumph. And now, in 3 minutes, Earth security forces will breach the embassy. I sent them an anonymous tip. They'll find everyone safe. They'll find evidence of sabotage. And they'll find a convenient culprit. Who? Lyra managed, though her throat was raw. The human mechanic. Of course. Former military. Dishonorably discharged. Multiple employers. History of anti-alien sentiment. Your brother was killed in the Naltherian border conflicts. Wasn't he, Garrett? It's all there. The perfect suspect. Garrett's face had gone carefully blank, but Lyra saw the flicker of pain. You've been framed, she said quietly. Well and thoroughly. He met her eyes, a sad smile ghosting his lips. But I didn't do this. I know. How touching, Silvara mocked. The half-breed and the damaged human. But it won't matter what you know. It only matters what the evidence shows. You planted all of it. Of course. I'm thorough. Footsteps. Security will be there any moment. Either way, I win. The communication cut off abruptly. In the silence that followed, they could hear it now. Earth security forces deploying, boots thundering in the distances. We need to get you to your father, Garrett said, urgency returning. I'm also a half-human construct who apparently everyone's been lying to about. Lyra grasped his arm with her burned hand, ignoring the agony. Besides, you saved my life. I'm not letting you take the fall for my sister's psychosis. Lyra, no. Listen. She pulled up the maintenance sector's communication logs on a nearby terminal. Everything that happened has been recorded. Every word, she said, it's all here. She'll have thought of that. Not if we get it to the right people first. Lyra was already copying files, her fingers a blur despite the burns, transferring them to every system she could access. I'm sending this to my father, to King's Than, to Earth Security, to the Naltherian High Court, to every news organization in both planetary systems. Let her try to erase 100 copies. Garrett watched her work, admiration in his eyes. You're not just clever, you're strategic. I was raised for diplomacy. My father wanted me to learn how to fight with words and information. She finished the transfers with a final command. Turns out that actually works. The security forces reached their corridor moments later. Human soldiers in tactical gear, weapons ready, faces obscured by visors. Check your secure communications, Lyra interrupted, stepping forward boldly despite her disheveled state. Priority diplomatic channel. You'll find a complete confession from the actual perpetrator, along with evidence and motive. We're the victims here. The lead soldier hesitated, touching his earpiece. His expression shifted from aggression to confusion to shock as he reviewed the data. Stand down, he ordered his team. We've got new intel. To Lyra and Garrett. You need to come with us. The ambassador and the king are requesting immediate audience. They were escorted upstairs under guard, but not as prisoners. The throne room doors opened to reveal chaos organizing into order. Medical personnel treated nobles for minor hypoxia. Oxygen masks were being removed. Ambassador Kelvin stood with King's Than, both transfixed by a holographic display, showing Silvara's confession on loop, her voice damning herself. Her father saw Lyra and moved toward her, but stopped halfway, uncertainty etching his features. Is it true? Lyra asked before he could speak. Her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. Was my mother human? Ambassador Kelvin's face crumpled, tears welling in his eyes. Yes, but Lyra, I was going to tell you, after I married the king, after I produced heirs, continuing the lie? He shook his head. There was no lie, my love. Your mother was the love of my life. You are my daughter in every way that matters. The genetic modifications were only to protect you, because being half-human would have ruined me politically, and I knew how cruel people could be about differences. I wanted to spare you that pain. Instead, you made me ashamed of what I was without even knowing what I was ashamed of. Lyra felt tears on her own face, hot and unbidden. Did Silvara always know? Her mother told her years ago. I didn't realize it would lead to this. Ambassador Kelvin looked at the display, where Silvara's image froze in mid-laugh. I failed you both. I don't have to understand anything right now. She turned to King Than, who watched the exchange silently. Your Majesty, I imagine our marriage arrangement is thoroughly canceled. Than stood from his throne, his adaptive armor retracting slightly. He crossed the space and, to everyone's shock, knelt before her. Lyra, daughter of Kelvin, I rejected you for being too soft, too abundant, too different from what I thought a queen should be. He looked up, his eyes meeting hers. But tonight, you were stronger than anyone in this room. You saved us all. Your softness was resilience. Your curves were adaptation. Your difference was exactly what we needed. You don't have to apologize. I'm not apologizing for not choosing you. I'm apologizing for how I unchose you, and I'm acknowledging that I was a fool. He stood slowly. I can't offer you the marriage arrangement again. Too much has happened, and I suspect you wouldn't accept anyway. But I can offer you recognition, honor, the title of Royal Savior, which comes with lands, income, and a seat on an Altherian council. I don't want your titles. Then what do you want? Lyra looked at Garrett, still standing near the doorway, his arm bandaged by a medic. Then she looked at her father, at the king, at the assembled court that had laughed at her hours ago. I want to be accepted for what I am, not what I appear to be or what I was modified to be, but what I actually am. She raised her burned hands, blisters vivid. I'm half human, half Naltherian. I'm trained in engineering and diplomacy. I'm soft in some places and strong in others. I'm exactly who I need to be, and that was always enough. Silence fell across the throne room, profound and reverent. Then, from the crowd of nobles, someone began to glow, their bioluminescence pulsing in a pattern that signaled respect, honor. Another joined, then another. Soon the entire chamber glowed with their light, all illuminating in recognition of what she'd done. A living tribute. She's still out there, Garrett said quietly, moving to Lyra's side. She'll try again. Let her try. Lyra's bioluminescence pulsed bright, defiant. Next time, I'll be ready. Kings then stepped forward. Lyra, I meant what I said about recognition. You've shown us what true strength looks like. But more than that, you've shown us what we've been missing. The value of bridging worlds instead of forcing everyone into narrow definitions. He gestured to his advisors. I'm proposing something unprecedented. An ambassador-at-large position, reporting directly to both the Naltherian crown and Earth's diplomatic corps. Your mission would be to build connections between our peoples, to stand in the spaces between, and show others how to bridge them. And I get to choose my own staff? Lyra asked. Of course. Then I accept. She paused and added, on the condition that Silvara, when captured, is offered rehabilitation rather than just punishment. She's damaged, not evil. With help, she might become someone who contributes instead of destroys. Several nobles looked scandalized, murmurs rippling, but Stan studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. That will be difficult, but I'll push for it. You have my word. And as they walked away, no one dared laugh again, for they finally understood what they had witnessed, a transformation born of crisis. 3 weeks later, Lyra stood in the embassy's renovated conference hall, addressing representatives from 8 planetary governments. Her hands had healed completely, skin smooth and unscarred thanks to advanced Naltherian medicine. She wore clothing of her own design, blending human and Nowtherian aesthetics, flowing fabrics with embedded tech, hiding nothing of her hybrid form. Her bioluminescence pulsed steady through translucent panels, a beacon of authenticity. 3 weeks ago, she began, her voice clear and commanding, I was rejected for being wrong. Wrong body, wrong nature, wrong existence. The king was mistaken, but not just about me. He was mistaken about the premise that there's a single correct way to be. She outlined a proposal. Expanded exchange programs, collaborative research initiatives, educational systems teaching about all species' strengths and histories. When she finished, the room erupted in questions, engaged, thoughtful questions that began with how would we, instead of why can't we. By the end, they drafted a preliminary agreement, a framework, a starting point for interstellar harmony. As the delegates departed, King Stan approached. You're changing things faster than I expected. Not fast enough. There's so much work still to do. There always will be. That's not failure, that's reality. He smiled faintly. I was wrong about you. But the biggest mistake was thinking you needed a crown to have power. You already had something more valuable, vision and the courage to pursue it when everyone says it's impossible. When he left, only Garrett remained, leaning against a pillar with easy confidence. You did good today, he said. We did good. This only works because you've been there solving problems while I talk. They left together, walking through renovated corridors where holographic water walls ran alongside human art installations, sculptures of fused metals and bioluminescent corals. Aesthetics blended into something new, a hybrid beauty. Want to get dinner? Garrett asked. There's a place nearby that does fusion cuisine. Literally mixes human and Nowtherian cooking techniques. Another bridge builder? Something like that. Then yes. They walked into the city together, colleagues and friends. Perhaps more in time. 2 people who'd found each other in chaos, forging connection from crisis. Above them, stars were emerging, twinkling in the winter night. Stars as shown on Earth and Nowthera and 1,000 other worlds. All different, all connected. Lyra looked up and smiled. She'd been rejected for being too much, too different, too wrong. But being exactly yourself, complicated, hybrid, imperfect, and real, was always the most revolutionary act of all. In a universe that kept trying to sort everyone into neat categories, refusing to fit was its own kind of power, the kind that changed everything. In a universe built on arrogance, sometimes a single act of dignity is enough to shift the stars themselves. And when others finally see what they refuse to recognize, that difference is not deficit but destiny. The revolution has already begun.